That person's heart is rotting gray. The moment I heard those words, I turned to look at Yunpil standing beside me. For over 10 years, he had organized my documents and stayed up through the night refining my official letters. Was he truly corrupted? Or was this boy simply mad? I couldn't tell. But there was a deeply shocking reason why this situation had come to pass. My friends, where are you right now? How old are you, and what are you doing while listening to this story? Please leave a comment and let me know. This tale goes much deeper than you might imagine. I am the ruler of River Harbor City. Rather than my given name, Seoryong, I was more often called by the title Lord. River Harbor City was located at the eastern edge of the continent, where the sea meets the river. Trade flourished there, many people gathered, and with them came a tangle of complex interests and relationships. I became ruler 7 years ago. When my father passed away suddenly, I found myself thrust into this position with no preparation whatsoever. In the beginning, everything felt strange to me. I couldn't tell whether my retainers spoke from their hearts or not, and I agonized every night over which decisions were right. Still, as time passed, I gradually grew accustomed to it. I worked to organize the finances, reform the laws, and listen to the voices of my people. But recently, a strange feeling began to torment me. I could no longer be certain that the people around me truly had my best interests at heart. The opinions presented in council meetings were too neatly organized, and opposing views rarely emerged. My retainers nodded at my words, but their eyes seemed somehow hollow. I have no loyal servants by my side. Once that thought took root, I couldn't sleep at night. Even lying in bed, my eyes would stay wide open as I stared at the ceiling, thinking of my retainers' faces one by one. Yunpil, General Hyagang, Finance Minister Sodom, Ceremonial Officer Nawi. I couldn't tell which of them were sincere and which were false. Then, a month ago, I began secretly leaving the castle at night. I claimed it was to inspect the people's welfare, but truthfully, I simply wanted to be alone. I wanted to walk among the people not as a ruler, but as just another human being. I didn't bring any guards with me. Only Yunpil followed quietly behind. He was a man of few words and careful nature, so his presence didn't feel burdensome. That night was no different. Around 10 o'clock, I put on a black hood and left through the castle's back gate. Yunpil followed a few steps behind. We walked toward the harbor. It happened to be the night of the full moon festival. The entire harbor was filled with lanterns, and people filled the streets with laughter and chatter. I loved that scene. No one recognized me, and I felt like one of them. Some merchants were selling grilled fish. Children ran about with balloons. As I walked slowly among them, I felt that this city was more peaceful than I had thought. But then, as I was crossing the bridge, it happened. Suddenly, someone emerged from the darkness. It was a small boy. He appeared to be about 15 years old, his clothes tattered like rags, but his eyes were clear and sharp. The boy blocked my path. Lord Seoryong, I was startled. Even with my hood on, the boy had recognized me. Just as I was about to ask how he knew, the boy pointed behind me. That person's heart is rotting gray. The boy's finger was pointing at Yunpil. Yunpil looked at the boy with a confused expression. I couldn't understand what he meant either. A heart rotting gray, what did that mean? What are you talking about? I asked. The boy looked straight at me. I can see people's hearts by their colors. A sincere heart is transparent, lies are black, and a corrupted heart is gray. That person's heart is gray. I couldn't help but chuckle at those words. It was absurd. The ability to see people's hearts by color, such a thing couldn't possibly exist in this world. But the boy's eyes were too serious. He didn't seem to be joking. Yunpil spoke quietly. My lord, this child doesn't seem to be in his right mind. Let us leave quickly. Hearing that, I looked at Yunpil's face again. It was no different than usual. Calm and respectful. But in that moment, I felt something strange. There was a faint tremor in Yunpil's voice. It was barely audible, but I definitely felt it. Wait! I approached the boy. What is your name? I am called Chawun. Chawun, how did you know I was the Lord? The boy hesitated for a moment before answering. Because I can see hearts. Your heart is blue, my lord. It's the color of worry and anguish. There is only one person in this city with such a color. I was at a loss for words. What he said was too accurate. I truly was filled with worry and anguish. So much so that I couldn't sleep at night. Yet this boy knew it. Then how can you prove that my heart is blue? The boy thought for a moment, then took my hand. In that instant, a strange sensation washed over me. It felt as though someone were peering into my soul. It was uncomfortable, yet simultaneously fascinating. You are thinking right now, I have no loyal servants by my side. And you have trusted a man named Yunpil for over 10 years. But recently, doubts have begun to surface. I pulled my hand away from the boy's grasp. It was too accurate. This boy knew thoughts I had shared with no one. I couldn't believe how such a thing was possible, yet I couldn't deny it either. Yunpil spoke again. My lord, this boy is a fraud. He simply observed your behavior and made guesses. Please do not be deceived. But I didn't listen to Yunpil's words. Instead, I asked Chawun, what do you mean when you say Yunpil's heart is rotting gray? Chawun looked directly at Yunpil. That man is preparing to betray you, my lord. He hasn't acted yet, but in his heart he has already decided. That's why his heart is rotting. The moment I heard those words, I felt my entire body turn cold. Yunpil would betray me? The man I had been with for over 10 years? I couldn't believe it. But at the same time, fear washed over me. Fear that it might be true. Yunpil's face hardened. He was no longer calm. My lord, this is outrageous slander. I have served you for over 10 years. Not once have I thought of betrayal. I looked back and forth between the two of them. Yunpil's face was full of indignation, while Chawun's face was full of certainty. Whom should I believe? In that moment, a thought crossed my mind. If Chawun's words were true, then I had been living beside a traitor all this time. And if Yunpil's words were true, then I was doubting a loyal servant. Either way, I had been making the wrong choice. I asked Chawun, if you truly can see people's hearts, can you tell me other things as well? Yes, my lord. Please ask. How did my father die? The moment I asked that question, I felt my voice trembling. My father's death was my greatest mystery. 7 years ago, my father suddenly collapsed from illness. The physicians said they couldn't determine the cause. He simply grew weak all of a sudden and passed away within a week. I thought it was strange, but I had no evidence. Chawun closed his eyes for a moment. Then he slowly opened his mouth. Your father was poisoned, my lord. The moment I heard those words, I felt as though my breath had stopped. I pushed a bowl of fish cake soup in front of Chawun. Watching the steam rise, I asked as calmly as I could, why did you do it? Chawun picked up his chopsticks, then put them down again. No answer came. I don't know what Lord Yunpil said to you, but I know you're not a rude person, Chawun. So please tell me the reason. Chawun's hands trembled. After a long hesitation, he spoke in a small voice. I can see people's hearts in colors. My hand froze in midair. In colors? Yes. It's been this way since I was a child. I see colors around people, and those colors show the emotions they're feeling. Chawun picked up a piece of fish cake and slowly explained. Yellow for joy, blue for sadness, red for anger. It worked that way, but Lord Yunpil. Chawun trailed off. From the first time I saw him, he's been surrounded by black. Very deep black. And whenever he came near you, my lord, that color grew even darker. I held my breath. So, I couldn't bear it. He seemed like someone who meant to harm you. Tears welled up in Chawun's eyes. I'm sorry. Maybe I was mistaken. It's just... You looked like you were in danger. I gently patted Chawun's shoulder. Thank you for worrying about me. But my mind was in turmoil, seeing people's hearts in colors. If that were true, what did the black-colored Chawun saw around Yunpil mean? Hostility? Murderous intent? Or something beyond that? I told Chawun to eat slowly and rose from my seat. Then I headed straight to the study. I sat at my desk and thought for a long while. I needed to test Yunpil thoroughly. I took out a sheet of paper and wrote a brief message. Check the grain inventory in the Eastern warehouse and report by tomorrow morning. It was nothing significant. But the content wasn't what mattered. I folded the paper 3 times and sealed it with red wax. Then I pressed my seal firmly into it. Once the seal was complete, I held it and called for Yunpil. Yunpil. Yes, my lord. Yunpil entered with a bow. I handed him the sealed order. Deliver this to the warehouse keeper, and bring me his response by tomorrow morning, as you command. Yunpil took the order, bowed once more, and left the room. I watched his retreating figure quietly. His manner showed no hesitation, no suspicion. But I knew, whether he would break that seal or not, that night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned beneath the covers, thinking of Yunpil's face. That man who had always been so respectful. That man who had stayed by my side for over 3 years. If he truly meant to harm me, I closed my eyes. Morning came. Yunpil returned with the order. My lord, here is the warehouse keeper's response. I slowly took it from him and examined the seal. On the surface, it appeared intact. But looking closely, the edges of the wax were slightly raised, as if it had been carefully opened and resealed. I felt my heart sink. Well done. Yes, my lord. Yunpil withdrew. I stood there, staring down at the order. The black color Chowun had seen, and this subtly damaged seal. Now it was certain. Yunpil was hiding something from me, and that something was far from good. I set the order on my desk and looked out the window. The sun hung high in the sky. It looked like an ordinary day, but I knew better. Everything was about to change. I hadn't yet decided what to do about Yunpil. But one thing was clear. I could no longer trust him, and I needed to be careful. I opened the desk drawer and took out a small dagger. It was a keepsake from my father. Keep this with you when danger comes. My father's voice echoed in my ears. I slipped the dagger inside my robe. Its cold, heavy weight pressed against me. That evening, Chowun asked cautiously, My lord, are you all right? Yes, I'm fine, I answered with a smile. But my hand was gripping the dagger in my robe tightly. Night deepened. I lit a candle and began retracing Yunpil's movements. From 3 years ago, when he first came to my side, I needed to remember everything. Where the strange signs had been, what I had overlooked. I began writing it all down on paper. The places Yunpil frequented, the people he met, the odd reactions he'd shown. And slowly, the puzzle pieces began to fit together. 6 months ago, Yunpil had disappeared for 3 days. He'd said there was an urgent family matter. But when he returned, his clothes showed no signs of having ridden a horse. 4 months ago, when I'd lost an important document, Yunpil had said, I'll search for it, and returned it 2 days later. But that document had definitely been somewhere else when I'd placed it. And 2 months ago, the day I'd nearly been poisoned, Yunpil had urged me, drink your tea before it gets cold. Chowun had spilled it, so I never drank it. I tightened my grip on the pen. Everything was connecting. Yunpil wasn't simply spying on my secrets. He was trying to eliminate me, slowly, carefully, without being caught. I folded the paper and tucked it in my robe. Then I extinguished the candle. In the darkness, I considered my next move. I couldn't confront Yunpil directly. He still didn't know I suspected him. I needed to maintain that illusion, at least until I had solid evidence. The next morning, I acted as usual. I gave Yunpil errands, entrusted him with documents, and accepted tea from him. But I didn't drink the tea. I'm more in the mood for water today, I said with a smile. Yunpil simply bowed without a word. But I saw it. His eyes wavered just for a moment. That afternoon, I called for Chowun. Chowun, I have a favor to ask. Yes, my lord. Watch Lord Yunpil secretly. See who he meets, where he goes, without being noticed. Chowun's face hardened. I thought as much. Be careful. It could be dangerous. I understand. I'll find out everything. Chowun bowed. Watching him, I felt a small sense of relief. At least I had someone on my side. And that night, Chowun came rushing to my room. My lord. What is it? Lord Yunpil. He met with someone. I rose from my seat. Who? I couldn't see his face. But it was a man in black clothes. And Chowun caught his breath. He received a purse of money. My heart began to race. Where? In the eastern alley behind the abandoned house. I nodded. Good work. Now go rest. But my lord, it's all right. I'll handle this. Chawun hesitated, then finally bowed and left. I was alone again. And I thought, if Yunpil had received money, it meant he was taking orders from someone. Then who was behind this? Someone who would benefit from my removal. I slowly narrowed down the possibilities. And one name came to mind. My uncle. My father's younger brother, and the man who coveted the next succession in our family. I clenched my fist. If that were true, this wasn't simple betrayal. It was a power struggle over the family, and I stood at its very center. The next day, I made a decision. I would keep Yunpil close, but give him no important tasks, and secretly investigate him, gather evidence, and expose the truth completely. I told Chawun, keep watching him, and if Lord Yunpil meets anyone else, tell me immediately. Yes, my lord. From that day on, I began living a double life. Outwardly, the peaceful master of the estate. Inwardly, a man walking on a knife's edge. Yunpil remained respectful as always. But I knew the dark heart hidden behind that respectfulness. And a few days later, Chawun brought urgent news again. My lord, Lord Yunpil received a letter. A letter? Yes, and after reading it, his face went rigid. I narrowed my eyes. What did it say? I don't know. He burned it immediately after reading. I bit my lip. Something significant was happening, and it would soon affect me as well. I made up my mind. I could wait no longer. It was time to act. That night I fingered the dagger in my robe and thought, how to subdue Yunpil, and how to expose whoever was behind him. Time was running short. I could feel it. The calm before the storm. In that stillness, I prepared my next move.